in the time just between high school and college, in that summer, three other guys and myself decided we're going to go to the New Harmony, to the old dam. It's on, I think, the Wabash River. And most of the time, the Wabash River, is just no big deal. I mean, it's not. But when the water's at a certain stage, there's some couple of waterfalls in it, and the wide places and then narrow places. And in the narrow places, the water is going just insane speed because there's water going through a small area like a bottleneck. And so there's one area we were in inner tubes, and we went over this one falls, and we were trying to. And when I say falls, I don't know if it was 4 feet, 5 foot, 6 feet. It wasn't anymore. But when the water came over the falls, it would hit the rock underneath and come up, and it would make like a fish hook, and the place in the center would be quiet. And so I was trying to go over the falls in such a way that I could hit and stay in that quiet space, thinking, boy, that'd be cool to be stuck right there in the hook. And wouldn't you know it, I tried it over and over, and at last I did it. Well, now I'm in here. Of course, the water's crashing down here, and it's coming up wildly here. But it's quiet in this little bitty spot where I am. But I realize it's drawing me toward the waterfall.
Oh my goodness!
And even that was cool for a while. I could see it coming, so I got a hold of the inner tube. It wasn't just sitting in. I mean, I really got a hold of it, prepared myself. Well, when it hit, it flipped it and took me down. Well, I don't know. The water may not have been hardly more than waist deep, but because the water was so fast, I tried several times to get to the surface to get air, and every time I put my foot down, and then by the time you raise your head up, you're horizontal again.
Yeah.
And so anyway, after 2 or 3 times, I'd taken on all the water I could take, and I blacked out. Yeah. Well, when you're unconscious underwater, that's the end of it. But, God's hand was there. Mm-hmm. And it washed me into a shallow, quiet pool. Yeah. Where the guys that had gone before, it washed me down to where they were. It delivered me to them, in other words. And one of the guys' his name was Sam Harlan, and he was a lifeguard. And he knew what to do. And of course, I don't remember it. He did whatever he did. They never did tell me what he did. And I remember coming to. And when I came to, I've had several experiences like this. And I know it's true. You hear people say, my whole life flashed before us. Now, maybe that's an exaggeration. Mm-hmm. But in that split second, it is true that it is as though time is frozen for a moment. Mm-hmm. And in between, as soon as I came to, but before I started coughing, all that stuff I'd swallowed. So, that would be what? It wouldn't be a second, wouldn't be a half a second. I don't know, whatever it would be. And I saw that my eyes were blurry, and I saw, it was like crystals. I don't know if anybody that would watch this would even know, or if you would know, but there used to be things that we would watch, and we would turn them, and then they would
kaleidoscope.
Kaleidoscope.
Yeah, I remember.
So when I woke up, just that first thing, my eyes came, I could see just all these stars and things moving, and my first thought is, this is beautiful. Am I dead? Am I in heaven? And just instantaneous, I said, I must be alive, because if I were dead, I know I would not be in heaven. Now, how long did it take me to say that? Maybe 10 seconds or 8 seconds or something.
Yeah.
But I had that time.
Yeah.
And then the next thing, of course, I start gagging and trying to get all that water that you've swallowed out of your lungs and your nose and ears and out of your body, And so you would think, wouldn't you, that after 2 experiences like that, less than 2.5 years apart, you would think that would have turned anybody into a believer, and they would have come out and followed the Lord all the days of their life. But Pastor Wayne, truth is, as soon as I was okay and quit gagging and choking, and we got laughing and partying, and life went right on. It wasn't until I was 33, which would have been 15 years after that.
Mm-hmm.
So for the next 15 years, I just lived for the world.
Yeah. Rebellion is sure in the heart of man.
It's hard to imagine.
Yeah.
You know, it's if you had even a brain,
Yeah.
if it was operating, anybody would know this is crazy. But somehow that thought that I'm always going to get through everything somehow.
Yeah.
My friends may die, but it won't be me.
Yeah.
You know, they'll go to jail, but it won't be me.
Right.
That thought is just in the heart of a young person. You know, we say jokingly, and I think it was true about me. When I was 16 years old, I think I knew everything. We used to say, "Well, if you'd met me when you were 16, I could have answered every question."
Yeah.
Because you just have that.
Yeah.
You have that sense, and so
Yeah.
through those times and many others, God kept me somehow. He preserved me somehow.
Yeah. Amen. I want to just ask you. Now you were named after your dad.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So he was, and I knew him as Charlie. I guess that's what
he was
everybody
Charlie.
knew.
I'm Charles Michael.
Right.
He was Charles
Right.
Paul.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I remember you telling a story from when I guess you were preteen or teen, and you wanted to try out the car in the garage. When your dad wasn't around.
I don't know what the Lord has to do with this, but it's a story.
Yeah.
It tells you how foolish I was and how hard my heart was. My dad always had, he always had 2 or 3 jobs.
Yeah.
There was a short period of time when he had 4. They were all part-time. The fire department was full-time, but when you're a fireman, you work 24, you're off 24. Yeah. So you're on, off, and that 7th day, they called it Kelly. So out of 7 days, 3 of those times you're working 3 24-hour shifts. But 4 of those days, you got off. And so he always was doing something else. And the one thing he did, as much as he was a fireman, he was always a car dealer. He had a dealer's license. Now, in those days, nowadays you can't do that. But in those days you could. And he could sell them from home and things like that. He could go to the auto auction and buy things and bring them home and paint them and fix them up and sell them. And so I was old enough that I should have known better because my folks felt like it was okay to leave me at home by myself while they went camping. And so there was always a car for sale. I mean, we always had a car for sale. Mm-hmm. And it was in our little 1-car garage. In the area that I lived, if you had a garage, I mean, it was a pretty modest place. If you had a garage, it wasn't a 2-car garage. And so we had a 1-car garage, and it was just barely a 1-car garage. I mean, there wasn't this much room on either side of the door. And so they had it backed in, and I'm supposed to, when I'm there, if the phone rings, I'm supposed to, take the call and let the person come, and I know the facts to give them, what motor it has and blah, blah, blah. So they're kind of entrusting me a little bit. I'm to the point where I should have had some stability. But when I tell you the rest of this story, you're going to shake your head. So they left the keys in it, of course, because, the people want to start it and maybe even drive it. Mm-hmm. And so I'm by myself, and I think to myself, now I don't have my license. So I'm thinking to myself, I'd really like to go out there and just start that car up, make sure it starts, I don't remember what it was, but it was a full-size car. I remember that. I don't remember anything else. It was a full-size car. And so I started it up, and I shut it off. And then I thought, and I started it up, and then I revved it up a little bit, and then I shut it off. Well, we got neighbors right there. If I'd been thinking, And so anyway, to make a long story a little shorter, I got to where I'm revving that thing up. I'm letting the shot. And then I began to think, it wouldn't hurt if I just pull this up a little bit, pull it up a little bit. And so I started it and I put it in gear. I pulled it up a couple of feet. I backed it right back. And I'm thinking, that is really cool. But if a little is good, a lot has got to be better. And so I began to take it.
That's been your life motto.
I ought to have it tattooed. If a little is good, a lot is better.
That started early.
Yeah, it really did. It was a deficiency somehow. But I got where I was pulling it out pretty good and bringing it back. Well, then I thought, I wonder if this thing would get scratched We used to call it gets
Yeah.
cracked. What if it peel out? Now you got to remember, I'm in my dad's garage on my dad's concrete floor. If it peels out, is that not going to be a record for him to see? But did it occur to me? Oh no. So I'm sitting there and and I drop it in gear, went, just a little bit, and I backed it up and I thought, I better do a little bit more than that. So man, I'm and I drop it down and goes out. And now I'm pumped up. I am so pumped up.
You're living on the edge.
Yeah, I'm past the edge. Well, when I backed it in, I had to turn the wheel a little bit to get it backed in straight. It didn't occur to me that the wheel still turned.
Yeah.
And so now, I'm giving that thing the gas. I'm revving it up, and I drop that thing down in drive. But instead of going straight, it goes to the right, and it hits the front of the garage, and it takes the whole front of the garage, which is, it's only like this wide. It took that out a foot or so, just out like that. And now I got this car that's for sale, and my dad's painted it and dolled it up, and I've just laid rubber on the floor. I hadn't thought of that yet, but I had. I had done it. I just hadn't dawned on me. Yeah. And now I've taken out the front of the garage, and so I'm thinking, oh, what am I going to do? Well, my first thought, in prison later, I had a prison ministry for years, as you know. Yeah. Among prisoners, they had a saying. It's called "Deny till you die." Yeah. It's that if you can keep denying it long enough, maybe that story will fly. Yeah. Well, I backed the car up. I got it. Now I'm trying to get this. It knocked off its foundation, and I'm trying to get this thing back. And the only thing I can find is a sledgehammer. I find a sledgehammer, and so I'm standing out there, and I just take the first lick or two with a sledgehammer on, and I'm hitting this. And my mom and dad pull up. They left camping early, and my dad is walking down to me, and I've got a sledgehammer, and I'm hitting this thing, trying to get it back. And my dad asked me, "Son, what have you done?" Now, this would have been a really good time to tell the truth. But I was not of the truth in those days.
Yeah, this is better than anything on TV.
And I said, "Dad, you're not going to believe this." But I was just swinging this sledgehammer, and it flew out of my hand and hit the garage, and it knocked it out. Well, of course, he's not going to believe that. So my dad's a stern guy. Yeah. He knows how to be stern. And when he used to take me to the garage when I was young, it was to tan my little hide. Yeah. So I know that, we believed in corporal punishment. Right. I didn't get it nearly as often as I deserved. But now I either got to tell him the truth or stick to the story. So no, I'm serious, Dad. I swear, honest, the more things you say, the more credible you think it's going to be, Of course, it works the opposite, But the Bible said, let your yes be yes and your no be no. But I was not a man of the Bible. And I'm going, no, Dad, really, honestly, I swear it's the truth, blah, blah, blah. Well, and then he even says to me, if you'll tell me the truth, we can deal with it. But by then, I'd just gone so far, and I had my story, and I stuck with it. Those things, I guess, are funny and comical now, but when you look back to your own shame, you thought, really? I was past the age of accountability. I was probably 14 maybe, right. Something like that. And of course, I had to pay for the damages, and of course, Dad did the work, and it wasn't that much money, but he held me accountable. Yeah. Well, that's good. He did the right thing. Yeah. He made, and we didn't talk about that. Even when I was grown up and married for years. I never mentioned that story, and
it just never came up.
No, it didn't. Yeah. But now, they're gone, and we can tell the world.